we were about another issue, I didn't care for that situation coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Which I figured you knew too.
Uh-huh.
You didn't tell me he isn't, I know he's here beating down the door. We got the sign. Terms and contract and stuff.
Oh, good.
So,
When should we get started?
August 30th.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that's settled, and that's what I need. Last night I had, emailed her a few times, and then she sent the contract over. And then the insurance stuff is all over to Jan, so I think that's on the top that. She was just gonna be able to do that final piece tonight. And then she was gonna run the tenant, I think we got that all set up, so. All the new address, the old and everything, yeah.
Now, when I estimated like the years, I just did like 2/3 times that.
Yeah, you just have to make a best guess,
Yeah.
yeah. It fluctuates so much, and sometimes we don't know until, you put up these values in, but like sometimes it depending on what it is.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's one invoice is over budget and it's up against budget.
Oh, that's,
Mark, this figure on the scout house, is that an estimate figure?
What's that?
The cost of repairing the scout house.
That's two quotes, but it doesn't include 100% of the interior stuff. Casing, insulation.
are you all well rested?
Barely.
This is,
Or more tired from vacation?
Probably more tired.
And the windows are last year's price.
okay.
Can't keep getting a new price every.
All right, it's 5:30. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Discussion on 2025 budget. Administrators' comments.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Mayor and Council, I just wanted to add a couple things before we get going on the discussion. First, we've had some questions come about regarding the franchise fees, and I wanted to make sure everybody understood that. Those are 100% pass-through fees. So we implemented that fee through an agreement with Xcel Energy. They impose that fee and 100% comes back to the city. Those fees are found in your budget, identified as a revenue line item and then also as a revenue into the streets CIP. That has to be used for a public purpose related to those activities. So we've identified the street CIP for those funds. That is the only place they can go. There are specific requirements on what they can and can not be used for. So there is no cut taken by Xcel Energy, it is 100% back to the city, simply assessed on the utility bill that they receive from Xcel Energy. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Also wanted to mention, some of the budget challenges, as you can see. The biggest being, we don't have any new or additional tax capacity. Values are going up, but not new construction, so additional taxable homes, businesses and such. That's probably our biggest challenge with this budget cycle, and we've had a number of them in that same situation. It's up to you as a council to determine the priorities. Staff here presents what we have in the schedule, what we see as our needs here and there, but ultimately it's your decision to decide what the priorities are. If we wanna purchase this many pieces of equipment or these many projects, ultimately that rests with you. I know there's some increases on the utilities, water and sewer side that we're seeing. That is because we've had some major projects happen and we have some major projects planned in the future. If we want to pay for those projects, rate increases need to occur. I don't like it either because we also get all the comments from the residents coming in that are upset about their bills. But ultimately it's up to you to decide the priorities. And then the last thing, tonight we really need a consensus of the council. Once we have a consensus or direction, we bring that back to a following meeting. There is a public comment that happens at that meeting. That's a chance for the residents to weigh in, and then we pass a preliminary budget. So council comes to consensus tonight, then we move to the next meeting, take some additional comments, and we move it forward. And there's also another public hearing later this year. That's all I had.
City investment update.
You wanna take that one?
Sure.
Good news.
Let me get to the right page here.
If you're struggling on what page, let me know too.
Okay, it's going to be the page that looks like this. Definitely good news. The last few years we were having some significant decreases in our investments. This year it looks much better. We've changed some things up, liquidated some of our past investments that were not doing very well, and moved some, and then also changed out some of those funds into CDs that are having a much higher rate of return. So I think some of these, you'll notice the one that says Northland CDs and Falcon CDs, they don't have any gain or loss in the under the 2023 column. That's because those were just initiated in 2024, and then the column of 2024 gain and loss is just what we've had so far to date up through July 31st, excuse me. So, and then off to the side is just the changes in those. So, any questions?
Last page.
Yeah, I tore them all apart though. Thought I had them in order.
And we have updated to reflect that in our budget projections too.
Yes, yep. Within the budget, those are assumptions of how the rest of the year will go. We've updated that in the revenue columns.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it. So far, I guess I should total, so far for the first half of the year, we've had about 78,500 gain in our investments. So they are doing very well.
Any more discussion on this, or we go to the city debt update?
Any other questions, or do you wanna do debt, or do you want me to? Okay. Okay, if you can pull anything up on the thing, that might help too. I'll go over debt then. You should have got, I think in your first packet, a summary on debt. We only have a few debts. We actually did some refunding to, combine some of them. I'm just as confused as you guys here. Yeah, there you go, perfect, thank you, Monica. So, we have, we refunded the 2020 a few years ago, if you remember, because of, an interest rate, that was advantageous. But this is what we have existing. What's left, can you scroll to the far right? After this year, 3.4 million. That does not include what we anticipate to issue in 2025 for the 2025 street improvements. And I included that in your packet as well, so that you can see, you know, we're looking at issuing another, multi-million-dollar debt, I guess, 4 million, or I think it's 3.9 is what's estimated here. And that will essentially go on top of this payment schedule. And how we do it is we wrap it in, to try to keep it as level as possible. But as you recall, when I presented on the 2025 improvements, there is still across the board a tax levy impact on that project. So overall, the tax levy will go up to pay for that debt. We don't have enough room in our existing schedule to basically wrap it in. We have too much other existing debt that's still on the books. So I want you to keep in mind, this is existing. There's a new schedule for what we would add on. And you can kind of see how that, we have like a payment and interest, or principal and interest amount. And then you have a portion that's assessment revenue, which would be what the property owners are paying. And then our water and sewer also pay a portion, and then we pay a portion on the actual general tax levy. And I also included the couple slides from the presentation a few months back on that as well. Maybe it's below here. These ones right here. In order to pay for that new project, we're looking at about an average of $136,000 more needed annually from the tax levy. So that would be in addition to this schedule. Does that make sense to everyone?
So where's the 136 coming from?
The property taxes. But we will probably not levy that, because if you look at the payment schedule, we issue the debt, there's an interest only, and then the first big payment hits. So we don't levy that till next year.
And is that our current deficit, or is that based off the projects we wanna do?
That's based off of the potential 2025 improvement project. We need at least
That's-
$136,000 from the general tax levy to pay for
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So it's not hitting in 2025 because we're actively doing the project.
Mhm.
It's when we finish it, then it starts the clock essentially.
So we need to be mindful of the next tax levy.
Exactly,
That it would need that increase.
exactly. That is why when we talk about the projects, we talk about the impact on the water fund, the sewer fund, and the tax levy. Because it hits all three of those components.
And the big project next year is just the 4th Avenue.
Fourth Broadway,
is
Parent,
that reconstruct?
I mean, it's a very big project,
Mm-hmm.
so it's probably comparable. What was the 08 improvements? Was that like 3.9 million?
2008, you said it.
I mean, it's pretty close to the same size. It's a pretty big project, which, there are advantages to doing bigger projects too, because there's obviously financing costs. We have to go through a whole process when we issue debt, like credit review. And then sometimes you get economies of scale if you
Yeah.
do more streets and pipe and so forth, but.
Yeah, while you have everything here, you can take care
Yeah.
of more stuff.
But, you know, it's just important to recognize we have this debt, we have the sewer debt, which is around, it will finish about around 11 million. And then, we have the future that we do. So if we do any water treatment, if we do, so we've added to our debt load
Yeah.
considerably.
When does the sewer get hit?
It already is hitting.
It is?
Yep, you've been approving payments. It's just only calculated interest
Okay.
right now. And the projected payments you'll see as a line item in your operating budget. That's, you know, what it'll average about annually based on
Okay.
that number, yeah.
And that,
And that's locked in already, so what did we say that was, 2.8, 87 or something? We locked in
okay.
at the prime time. So, 30 years, 2.8%. So we will put, you know, that full 11 on that because it is the right thing to do at this point based on the other needs of the city.
I mean, we keep talking about the projects, we're talking about the water project. So the water project is something that we've talked about that needs to happen, and it's, to my understanding, it's not an option, right? At some point, the state is gonna require us to have a water treatment facility plant or treat our water into a certain desired level.
Maybe that's, yes and no.
I would say it won't become required. You know, I mean, it's what we wanna supply for our customers. You know,
Maybe a better way to say it is it is probably one of the biggest complaints we get is the quality of water. And something that a lot of residents have asked for. But the water is safe to drink and there isn't anything pressing at this point, not like the wastewater was. We were more pressed on the wastewater side.
So if we wanted to put the water treatment plant further down the road, we could.
I think you could, and I think it's important to seek out other funding. We've had some leads on funding so far, but there's still a significant gap.
Yeah.
You know, it's a $13 million project and, you know, 3-4 million is not as much as I'd like to see. You know, we funded the wastewater, almost 60% with grants. You know, we funded that a lot closer than this one is.
So the most recent allotment we got was 2 million that was awarded to us?
It's not awarded yet.
Okay,
It's still in negotiation, so we're in on one side, we're not in on the
Okay.
other. It comes down to, just like the state does, they gotta negotiate all of it.
and then is that something where we'd have to use it within a certain time frame?
So, that is one thing I had asked the engineers about, because it initially said there was a time frame on it, but it takes them, the answer I received was it takes them so long to establish contracts and agreements on this, that it's almost like you don't even get eligible for the funding for a year, and then your clock starts ticking.
and you have design,
Yeah,
it's a year.
but I think that, it's hard for us to move a project forward, you know, and I think there is that happens too. You don't have all your funding in place.
Sure, so we could continue to find additional funding sources and add those up over, we'll say, a few years before we have to think about actually pulling the trigger on the project?
That's what I would hope to see, unless Mark has any information that, you know, something could come sooner.
I don't see it sooner.
Sure. So we've got some time before it's
That's the dates they provided us, right? The timeline?
Oh, what was the date? It was a few years out.
Yeah.
It was like 3-4 years out.
Okay.
Is kind of what engineering said they think, cause it just takes time. This
Sure.
stuff takes a lot of time.
And in that time, there could be more opportunities for more financing options.
I sure hope so,
Yeah.
yeah.
But is there a concern with, in the near term, with wells and other water items currently that we need to worry about if we did push this down the road further?
We have enough water, you know, it's the quality of water, well, not, I don't wanna say quality. The water, like I said, is safe, it's good, it's just, it's got iron in it, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be seeing brown water in the near future, it's that time of year where, till we do another flushing, you know, it's that, it's.
But we have capacity to, with our current situation, you know, we're talking about adding on a development, possibly, you know, additional 70 households. We have capacity to be able to service and maintain with our current water situation?
I would say yes, because we're down so much with the loss of the two bigger users, would be my yes, I would not be afraid to move ahead. So I think by the time a big project happens, we might do the south or something, but
Yeah.
by then we might be into doing something with water.
Another thing too is the treatment plant is one component, the well is another component. So if capacity became an issue, we could explore the option of doing well number 6. You know,
Sure.
And
That-
doing the treatment later.
and doing the
Right.
treatment later.
Yeah, yeah.
Because my understanding is they're two separate, we're gonna join together to be both part of the treatment plant.
Yeah,
That would be nice.
just doing it all at once, same thing, economy of scale, okay. All right, that helps.
Any other questions?
Operational budget overview.
I guess you guys have the line items. Please refer to the water and sewer budgets that I provided later, as those have updated revenues. I guess we can answer questions, or if we need additional research, what would you like to discuss?
Oh, we definitely have to look at these capital expenditures that we have planned for 2025.
So as far as the operational budget overview, are we talking about the future CIP projects?
Yeah, so, within the operating budget, you'll see do you wanna pull that part up? You'll see on the bottom of like the general fund expenditures, you see those transfer out. It's expenditures, we basically need to levy for those capital dollars in the general fund, that's the biggest one. General fund equipment, general fund streets. If you make changes to the CIP, that could adjust that number. Yep, in yellow right there. Yep. Because we have to levy cash to fund those basically capital accounts. Yep, and then she has the CIP open as well too, if you wanna see. So you see what's planned on the CIP. So if you defer, let's say, okay, we're not gonna do this $50,000 project, and we were levying that 50,000 for that project, we could reduce that levy.
Sure.
The thing we gotta keep in mind, some of them are running a little bit of a deficit. It's hard because what happens is we try to stick to that annual amount, but equipment costs have gone up so much, we can't keep up. We're basically not funding enough into our CIP. So we have to do some catch-up some years, based on what happened the prior two. But essentially, yes, if you cut purchases, you could reduce the capital. Same goes with the operating line items. If we, decide, we're not doing this, we're gonna change this, that's gonna adjust that bottom line. Your general fund is one fund, your, EDA, downtown and HERPS is another. You can't really do much with that one because we have to make our contract for deed payment, so there's really not much extra there. Your swimming pool is a separate fund. We're actually, I think, under levying that one right now, but we're doing okay on cash. We don't have much planned. I think the next major one is the pool basin. But, we've been holding steady because we've made some rate adjustments at the pool. We've cut our losses a little bit there. Fire,
We do have the pool filters, we'll be talking next year at this
Yep.
time on.
I think that's the last one for a while, isn't it?
I have no idea, the salesman or rep hasn't been here to, but
I
we're gonna have
think
to
we
look at
have something
replacing
in
the
it.
filter. We can't get parts no more, they're from whatever, early eighties, whatever, and parts availability is done, so.
And then fire is a separate fund, so fire is a levy, pool is a levy, EDA, general fund, and then your bond payments. Those are all separate levy items within your tax. And that's all on that summary page that she shows at the end, amount needed to balance.
Okay.
So if you guys have any suggestions, things you wanna look at, we can plug some numbers and then try to get you an estimate on the impact.
I mean, are we 2024 had planned a water tower reconditioning, that's obviously not happening.
Correct, yeah.
Would that be something we would focus on as we discuss the water treatment well and kind of do that all around that time frame?
Yeah, I think, well, I know my big concerns is how much water expenditures we have coming from that project. And then where we were at with treatment, but I know the conditioning needs to happen.
We want to do it together with, as a project, but, which is a good idea. If we keep kicking the water down the road, which I understand,
Mhm.
we might have to consider doing the water tower reconditioning. It's past due already. We washed it 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was, as a little, you know.
We did kind of a patch on it, didn't we?
We did the
Something-
patch, they did
yeah.
they dove in with the rover device, and, we may, if we keep pushing the water, we might have to think about doing that. It's just a little bit hard with our storage right now, makes a little inconvenience. So. It will not be next year. Mark yourself.
It's in the second packet. Do you wanna talk general fund, or do you wanna talk? Water sewer first, it doesn't matter to me. Water sewer, we have a little bit more of a pickle. I don't, how do I delicately say that? What would you like to talk about first?
Let's do water sewer.
Okay. That memo I provided you in the second packet? Yes. The concern we are seeing is the water and sewer revenues are below target. We suspected this might be an issue, partly because of commercial closures and partly because of the winter sewer lock rate, and the wet season. So I think there are 3 contributing factors. I don't think it's just one over the other. This is year-to-date, what I pulled like just a few days ago when I sent this out. So we have our new software lets me to actually pull it in real time into the spreadsheet, which is nice, cause we can get faster data. But we should be tracking around that 60, 65, you know, in that ballpark, depending on the timing of receipts, and as you can see, we're well below that. We'll see what next, do you have that memo?
So are we talking about a combined water sewer of that 60 to 65?
Each one should be tracking at that.
Each one?
We can see some fluctuation if it's really dry, you know, we might see a big push in August if July was really, you know, dry. But it's sluggish, and it's been sluggish all year. The lock, the freezing people, you know, last couple of years, people ran a lot of sprinklers, and we also got a lot of sewer charges off of that too. We took a hit. Yep, that's it. So that's why I proposed, I don't know that this is gonna hold true next year. I think part of it is seasonality with the rain. But I don't also want to ignore it either, because if you looked at our revised cash projections on the sewer fund, we're under $1 million. We will come back, cause we have a couple reimbursement submittals, but you know, the project, we put a lot of cash towards the sewer project too as well. Things that weren't covered and so forth, extras and so forth. We can't sit and wait, you know, and respond as quickly. We need to be mindful of that. We also don't know exactly how the pumping situation is going to, you know, work as far as cost. We're running with engineers' estimates, you know, on what the pumping costs are going to be, that 14-mile route to St. Cloud. We do know our gallons are down. How much are they down, Mark? Did you say?
What we put in was for 371 a day, 371. I've been running in the past couple days been like under 230, so.
Considerably lower.
Yeah, I mean, rain event, I'm still over the 300s. I don't think that, even though last couple rain events, I didn't go maybe one day over my 371, so it's been pretty, 230 to 250 I've been running on the sewer side.
So the revenues may be down, but also our pumping expenditures may be down to correlate with that, so.
Sure.
But we also don't have the final numbers back from the city of St. Cloud as to what it's gonna cost us next year. And they always, you know, it's like 5% across the board, you know, increase in their operating costs and so forth. So what you have, like, in front of you, the budget is the best that, you know, with the information we have right now. But I think it's prudent that we look at some type of rate increase so that we don't get caught in a pickle later or a worse situation.
I mean, it's probably prudent that we raise rates every year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
And part of the problem we are in is because there were no rate increases for decades.
yeah,
And so we got stuck with all of it.
every business, every place has rate increases annually on their, I mean, that's standard inflation.
The good news is the sewer was projected at 25% again this year. But because we got that PSIG money, you know, we were able to bring that back down. So I think 5%, I'm comfortable seeing what one more year looks like it.
This recommended rate, that's the minimum that you're looking at?
Yep, so the minimum would go from 64.41 to 68.41. We were proposing no change in the storm fee, and we do not know of a change in the Minnesota test fee. If that would change, we're obligated to change that, so it'd just be 81 cents as far as we know.
And then just curious if, you know, so they projected us at 371, so we're using an average of their numbers, the engineer numbers
No,
for sewer.
those are Mark's numbers, those are his flows. 371 are the estimated flows.
71,000 gallons a day.
Yeah.
That was our permit, wasn't it?
So is that what St. Cloud is expecting us to send their way?
We're actually, no, St. Cloud has agreed to take more than that, cause we've built in growth. But
Okay.
we only pay for what we send them. We had a buy-in fee, which was
Yeah.
like our growth, we own so much of the plant, and then we only pay treatment on gallons and strength.
And right now, gallons are down.
Considerably, so we did downgrade that, in your operating budget, I did lower that, a bit based on the conversation Mark and I had on the flows, so.
So is there a opportunity as we continue to look at the fees, because right now we're just assuming, right, what we think the fees will be for sending things to St. Cloud?
No, we have a schedule, we just don't know what the increase is gonna be for next year. So I calculated that number based on gallons that Mark is estimating and the current, like, rate, and then I just added like a 4% because I figured they're gonna come back with something. But we also have capital charges, there's a considerable formula, we have a big meeting tomorrow with all the cities regarding this. So I just don't have all the information yet.
But 4% is a good starting point, you believe?
Mark, do you remember, it's usually always been,
I mean, 4 to 5.
I would think.
yeah, I mean, PFA required us to put 5% across the board in our cash flows worksheet that we had to fill out with them. Because they just said wastewater expenditures have just been increasing, you know, they can't, 2% doesn't cut it anymore.
Right.
So in order for us to keep up with that, I mean, we naturally have to increase ours.
Yeah, I mean, like, we talk about that all the time, like, really, you know, pipe and what they see, meters, everything goes up by a little bit every year, and,
One thing on the St. Cloud, the flows are down, so that part, but we're also responsible, how do I explain it, sir? The Metro Force Main, we own.
that's
4%
the
of
capital.
The capital part?
Yep.
We own 1% of that doesn't go down with our flow, we are 4% of St. Cloud, that's
Yep.
our formula.
So, do you know that bill you've been paying monthly so far from the city of St. Cloud, you've seen it come through? That's our portion of capital charges. So that's on the monthly bill, and the operating will be added to it. That will change next year once the Metro Force Main portion comes on, and I do have an estimate on that, so we're running with an estimate right now. Fortunately, that project did come in pretty competitively as far as bid, so, you know, it looks better than initially we thought it was gonna be. But yes, that's part of what's in your operating budget, is we have to account for those fees.
that won't go down.
Nope, that's fixed. Just like we had to pay that 7 million to buy in, you have to pay your portion of the capital plant.
Yep.
And it seems like a lot of money and we're still only, what, 3%? Okay.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mark, can you get the door? Okay, thank you.
So then is the question whether or not we agree to the proposed recommendations, or if we want to fluctuate those recommendations?
I do not need an answer on the fee schedule until the end of the year. But when we're doing the operating budget, we usually like to get something started because we understand this affects everyone and there's a lot of questions regarding it. We can make adjustments to it. We can look at, like I mentioned in the memo, a lot of cities do a tiered rate so that those people that are just using water for their basic needs, you know, if this much is this rate, then it goes up, 10%, then it goes up another 10%.
I liked that, as I've been scouring other cities and how they do things, I've seen that a lot.
It's called the conservation rate.
Right. I mean, the idea isn't to waste water, it's to conserve water, and those that have other items that they want to, whether it's watering or pools, then you pay a higher rate.
You're not paying the full sewer, but you are paying a premium to have that
Yeah.
amenity.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Right, oh yeah, I mean, so that's my thought on that. I think that's a good way to look at it, and obviously we need to, when would we address any changes we would want to make to the lock rate? Would that be
We would need
at
to
the end
have
of the year?
a public hearing in December.
Okay.
Yep, so essentially you just need to decide on your general fund levy funds by September, because that's what goes on your preliminary tax statement that everybody gets sent out.
Mhm.
And then you can finalize your enterprise funds later with the overall budget.
Okay.
So if we need some more time to look into some options, just let us know that now, because that can take some time to pull reports. We are still working on a new system, so sometimes we can't find things as quickly as we'd like to, but.
And also that number in September, that preliminary levy, that can go down until December, but after that preliminary amount, it can't go up.
So if you're not sure about something, we usually say, keep it here and then bring it down at the end.
I mean, I guess I would like to see what a tiered water schedule will look like and what we would want to propose or recommend for that.
Yeah.
And I know if we have,
For both, for residential and business?
Well, yes, you can do it for commercial too. I know there was a question about the businesses not being included. With how it's right now, that's difficult because businesses don't necessarily operate like a summer residential home would. So we could have production amp up at a certain time of year and then they're locked in. And then we would lose, where they're taking all this water, it may go down the sewer yet. It's a harder thing to navigate. But you can do a conservation rate with businesses. I mean, I have seen it, if that's something you want to look at. I just think our current lock, with everybody locked, commercial is gonna cause a lot of issues.
right, and I don't feel that the intent behind that it was meant for, to me, families that wanted to put a sprinkler out for their kids, have a pool, water their garden, sprinkle their lawn, without the fear of being penalized the sewer rate when the water in fact wasn't going down the sewer.
Yeah. I'm not saying that, yes, there are some businesses that do sprinkle.
Right, there are, yeah.
And maybe there's another alternative that could be considered for that situation, but the lock rate across the board, I don't know if that's gonna work.
It's really not the right answer.
No, I mean,
It's not a workable,
you have
not a
someone like,
workable plan.
I mean, there's some of our manufacturers that do ramp up during the summer, so it would actually create a very large problem.
Well, and obviously, commercial can have a big impact on our rates, which we've seen this
Yeah.
last year, our revenues and.
I mean, I think to explore options though, you know, I think we all talked about the January lock and how maybe it would be better to lock in a time frame, an average of months versus 1 month.
Yeah.
And I know you guys already talked to the software company who deals with a lot of cities, and they said that they see more often than not the
Yep.
3 or 4 month lock. And with our software, we are able to get would we be able to actually get like an estimate or an idea of what that would look like?
Yeah, I think, that's what we, found out when we dug into it, there's just a lot more options with that. You know, and they did, you know, they had to convert everything, and so we really learned a lot on that system, on what can be done, so I think definitely. Is anyone on?
I think the biggest thing with the stress of that for this summer is that we were taking our numbers from one software system and implementing it in another software system that we were not quite fully prepared at that time in that system, because we were already implementing something in June and we were just learning it at the exact same time we were implementing it. So in future years, changing things like that will be a lot smoother than it was this
Yeah.
time.
Sure.
Okay, so conservation rates, also just the average monthly option,
Yeah, I
more
think
information on that?
if it's something we wanna continue with, you know, I mean, it's something we could just as easily get rid of too. If it truly is causing that big of a deficit problem, and if it, you know, can do anything to rates, you know, overall. But, you know, we wanna make sure that it's as equitable and fair and across the board.
Okay, we'll get you some more information on that. Is there any other questions? I think so. Okay. Anything else with the operational and the water sewer?
I mean, would we talk about the additional street improvement plans with regards to water sewer? You know, cause you had it in one of the pages, we talked about additional road projects, seeing if we'd be able to get a deal because we're having
Yeah.
the larger project. I think with
Yeah.
Mariah,
Good
and there was another one.
Yeah, good segue. So, one of the things that we did with this last cycle was we established a storm sewer fee, and it's basically $1 a month per account. What we were wondering is if we should pick maybe one of those projects. We have enough funding after this year and probably most of next year to pay for that, but maybe we could leverage that project and put that as an addendum into the bid. I know we have 2 on there, and there might even be more in the future, Mark, on those storm sewer, like the drain tile projects. But, one of the things we were talking about is maybe if we put something in, maybe it'll shuffle out where it won't be as big of a project, or we get some cost savings just by leveraging.
Right, cause there was, I think, 2 identified.
Yep, Mariah and 13th, I think, are the
13th.
ones on there, yep.
Yep.
And they've been kicked a few times. Mark, do you have any comment on which ones? Are you still looking?
If you go look at them, you can tell they've been kicked a few times.
I don't think we're gonna touch them for the price anymore, you know, they've been kicked so many. I think 13th is too far gone now, or it's gonna be a complete mill and overlay. But no idea, what, you know, without getting an estimate on it.
So would that be something we would have them estimate for us for both projects, and then we could decide which?
Yeah, so sometimes we do an addendum, and then you basically bid a portion and say, we may or may not do this, you know, but we wanna see this as an option, you know, or one way or the other. We could check with the engineer if there's interest of the city council. We just know that there's a lot of areas we need to do some storm sewer improvements. We also can utilize those funds like for, catch basins. We have a lot of work on our city side of infrastructure that we need to keep making happen, because essentially more clean water getting into the system is gonna cost us more with treatment.
Sure.
So if it's something the council, we could bring it up on the agenda, in September, but, that was just kinda one option. We thought maybe we should try to throw one in and see what happens.
I mean, again, projects that we've been kicking down for quite some time, and now we're actually collecting additional revenue for
Yeah,
those
I
kinds
mean-
of projects. I think it's worth looking into.
We wanted to do that because it just keeps getting harder to find the funding for this stuff, and it's still really important, and we can see, the streets deteriorating right in front of our eyes. And so if we put a funding source, we thought we might be able to get a few of these smaller things done
Mhm.
over the course of how many years, so.
And hopefully with the storm sewer implemented on those streets, the erosion won't
Yeah.
be as quick
Right.
in the future.
That's the problem, and that's why spend a lot of time doing storm sewer on our projects, and it's because we've seen what happens when you don't have it.
Mhm.
So you're saying Mark 13th is too far gone for that?
I just think it's gonna need a mill and overlay.
Okay.
Patch 8 feet of it,
Yep.
the rest of it's so rough shape, I think we're throwing our money away knowing we're coming back in 5 years and doing overlay, and then you'll tear it all back out.
Okay.
I don't think we'll get the life of the.
What about Mariah?
Can we do what we had proposed there, just some sort of a storm sewer drain tile? At least get the sump pumps out of there? And that was seal coated, whatever, about 4 or 5 years ago, whatever that was, and it's not near as bad as 13th, but it has a water issue, as we know.
Right. It'll continue, it'll look like 13th
Yeah.
soon enough. But
Right.
Mariah has more of a, what do you call it, the algae and stuff. It's like flat, whatever, it's flatter and there's more water. For what, 8 houses?
Yeah.
I know you've been down there, we've been down there,
Mhm.
been down there. I mean, there's more of an issue with that out there.
Well, I think it should be, I mean, if we can piggyback that with Fourth.
Use some of those funds,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Maybe what we should do is add an agenda item to the next meeting with the engineer here.
Sure.
And then, maybe in the meantime, you and Jared can have a conversation to see what options we have. Does that work?
Yeah, maybe just, there's a price they have for going overlay,
Yeah.
so, small project.
And then we can talk through those items?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be
Yeah,
good.
we're gonna have no overlay on this project with the county part, so.
Okay. Anything else on the water, sewer, street?
Is there any timeline yet, do we know, from the federal government when lead piping has to be replaced?
I'm not,
Are you talking
Yeah.
about this, are you talking about the wastewater line?
No, lead
Oh,
line.
oh,
I know there was funding out there, they talked about it, I don't know if there's,
Mhm.
I haven't seen anything, if someone else is, they talk about.
34, but we're gonna have it available on the north, we went in for it on the north side
Okay,
project,
that's what I thought,
for all
Yep.
those houses.
Yep.
If you saw Sauk Rapids got whatever in that last bunch
Yep.
of money for, they've been pretty aggressive, it's their second round of it.
Yep.
Hmm.
It's just, are we gonna go after, later on when we get out of are we gonna go back to 2018 project and try to get those people to change theirs or not? Ours are good.
Hmm.
I still don't understand how they can tell somebody to change their water line going in their house and, they said the government's gonna make you,
Right. I
know.
mean, on the north end, if we're gonna rip up the roads, we might as well do it.
Yeah.
Makes
Well,
sense.
Most of them are gonna be doing their sewer line already,
Yep.
so they would be foolish not to, especially if we get them funding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's already been submitted when we did the, what is that called, the letter PC, whatever,
Oh, the,
plumbing
IUP?
IUP or whatever,
Mhm.
that was included in there. You had
And the
several
lead
different
line,
things.
the lead lines.
The lead money was, yeah.
Yep.
Well, that was actually part of this water funding, but it kind of a separate thing.
There's funding, I
Yeah, it's
just,
part of the
Right.
water thing. the
we don't
stormwater.
have it all, I don't think yet, but there is something that we might be able to tap into.
And we put, our inventory's done, not submitted, we put like almost every property up there, even though, cause there's a couple unknowns, we know some are done. We went high and
Yep.
we'll work back with the people.
So we decide more on the operational budget, that's gonna be what changes the levy?
So your main page there, if you look, amount needed to balance, those are all pulling from those spreadsheets. Yep, there, Monica's got it up for you. So right now, well, we have one tweak, I think, that came in late, that Mark may be able to do on the fire side, which would drop it to 7.6. Is that okay that I have that in there?
Yeah.
Yep, okay, they did some adjustments. But anything else to lower it, we'd have to see a cut from like the general or equipment, CIP, or a change in a line item.
What did we change that we got down to a 7.6? Because I think the packet shows a 9,
Yeah.
4, 8.
I'll bring up the CIP.
Monica, I'll go for it.
So, under fire,
And I do have some forms if you'd like to have this in your hand. So on the previous CIP for fire, the pumper truck number 5 we had for 25 years. And so that would have put it at a 2040 replacement, and we switched that to 30 years at 2045. And then truck number 1, we moved to 30 years from 25 years, and that would have been, brought us to 2050. And then a few other, 27 years on pumper truck number 2, 28 years for tanker number 3, and 27 years for, tanker number 4, from 25 years. So it just stretched out the usage of those equipments for a little bit longer. And so our, annual amount is less. So this annual column right here takes the total amount and then divides it by the life of the equipment. So then this 114, that is what we would put on the annual basis on the CIP for the budget. That dropped from 125 down to 114, which is a significant jump. So which was why it went from 9.4 to 7.6.
Okay, so that adjustment alone is what
Yep.
lowered it, okay.
Mhm.
Cause essentially we have less going to the levy to fund it. We just lowered that capital operating line item, or levy dollars.
Last year, and I apologize if I missed it, you provided surrounding like-size towns what their levies
We don't,
were looking like.
we don't have, there hasn't been much out there yet. I
Okay,
think it's a little early. We do have like I said, that St. Cloud area wastewater meeting tomorrow. Mark and I have that on our list to ask, cause usually we talk about that stuff, just general what's going on. I don't have a ton right now, I probably will in a couple weeks. Cause I think
Okay.
everybody's kind of in the same spot now, they're doing their presentations and,
Yeah.
discussions.
I was just good to understand what's going on everywhere else and what
Yeah.
things look like and,
It is, we are in a little bit of more of a stressful situation just because of the lack of new construction.
right.
And then, there is a lot of stuff coming down from an employment side, from the state, as far as like, we have new programs like ESST now, that's costing us more
yeah.
money. We have the paid family leave tax, that
Yep.
is not in this cycle, but it will be, that's 0.7% across the board.
2026, yeah.
So we have some different things, insurance, we've heard anywhere to expect from a couple percent to 60%. I mean, I don't know how this is gonna happen, we haven't seen that before, but, there's some things that we don't have yet. we're just making our best estimates on, you know, based on our past history and hoping for the best.
We did receive our workman's comp, information for this coming year, and that did not seem outrageously high, only a few $1,000s increase from last year, which is, it's good to see. It's been bad.
Yeah, so I think that's leveled off, and I think some of those changes they're making at like the state level with, PSTD or PTSD for officers, they made some legislative changes. I think that's also stabilizing some things in the insurance industry.
So when we talk about the operational budget overview, are we looking at the uses of funding for the water, sewer, fire, and whether or not these projects we want to have happen in these years, and that will affect the levy?
So what's directly affecting the levy are all those funds except for the water and sewer. Those are coming from the rates, the water and sewer rates. Your biggest contributor to the levy is the general fund, and that's where most of the equipment and stuff is coming from. Like the pool has, like you said, the filters I think we have to do at some point, but there isn't much on besides general fund and fire. I think those are the main ones that have the majority of the equipment and expenditures.
And that's gonna be on the expense lines that were,
The equipment would be on the CIP.
Yep.
okay.
And we take that bottom number, what we spend or what we plan to spend in the year, we take what we had in the account
Okay.
from last year, what we plan to spend, and then what we need to levy to cover it, is kind of the formula. So if you take something out of the CIP on the general fund, we could possibly lower the levy.
So the general fund equipment?
I'd say general fund, equipment, and fire is probably your biggest areas, cause there's really nothing, EDA has nothing,
No.
swimming pool has,
Swimming pool has nothing for 25.
yeah, I mean, we're looking at the filters, we don't even know that yet. So do you see those lists of those two capital improvement plans?
I mean, I see the general fund capital improvement plan, uses of funding for general fund equipment.
So look at those items listed under 2025. So you have like your police squad, we have council tablets.
Okay,
We
yep,
have,
perfect,
those
yep,
items.
okay.
Yep. Go right down that list, that's what we have, scheduled at this point. That
Is-
is up to your discretion.
That's what would change the levy.
Yep,
Did the things in 2024, did some of these things, I mean, some of these things didn't happen.
no, but they're planned to happen, cause they were approved, so we account for that.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, so you're looking at, I'll just list them if it helps. Council tablets, microphones.
Yep.
Phone system, squad car, Norway Drive park improvements, trail improvements, park improvements of 30,000, Holdridge play structure, New Holland tractor, Ford dump truck. Right, no, wrong line. Lawnmower,
Lawnmower.
sorry.
Okay, so it's a matter of which of these things we can live without?
If you wish to reduce the levy, we gotta cut. Or we have to go through that line item and try to squeeze out. It's harder to do it that way, the big hitters are the capital.
Do we, I haven't seen it, do we have, extra funding for the facade program?
No, that is not in there, that's why I put in the memo.
Right.
So if you wanna add facade funding, we gotta find another 20.
I mean, how bad do we need the microphones?
We do not have a working mic in spare, and we have lost 2 or 3 already. 2, okay. That's the only reason that's on there. We get anywhere from 200 to 400 people watching our videos from the council meeting, you know, they're after the fact.
So the expectation is there would be a consensus on getting then microphones and no one complaining about us spending $14,000 on microphones.
You know, that's up to you. I just know we do have a following on our council meetings. and the public does like to view them. If you wanna just go as is and just repair as we go, I can try to do that. I just, I can't promise you anything. We were just looking at what it costs to replace these, it was so expensive, we're like, why are we doing this when these things are on the last leg anyway?
So are we talking about actual microphones replacing these?
All
with
wireless.
new ones?
All wireless,
Okay,
all wireless, because the cords have just been a problem. And we could do a scaled down version if you'd like. We could try that, we could just add a few, if you'd want me to do that, I can work with that.
I mean, have we explored, when I think about, like boardrooms, using Polycom systems and such where, I mean, it will pick up a pin dropping. Has there been exploration of those kinds of items?
I would imagine that's gonna be a lot more money.
They are fairly expensive.
I mean, I had just audiovisual come out, and I said, what's my best option that's
That was it?
affordable? Yep.
Okay.
And then the only thing we just said is we prefer wireless, which they recommended because
Right,
it's just easier.
it is. Oh yeah, if you're gonna spend the money, you might as well get wireless.
Yeah, unfortunately though, we would not have to replace our box, so that was good news, cause we were worried because one provider said we had to replace and update our whole box. That would not require us to do that, they were able to figure out a solution.
So then the question would be about tablets. I mean, would you say $2,500, we spend on average on paper?
Yeah, I think that's what we figured, yep, yeah. And that, we've had that on the CIP forever. With changes and updates, we also are trying to find easy ways to get you the information, but I understand if it's not feasible, it's not feasible.
I mean, so, I don't know how long it's been, maybe a few months. Stacy's been emailing me the packet. I mean, you'll see me sometimes come in and open up my envelope for the first time because I've already went through it all on my phone.
We used to not print packets. We had councils for a while that did not want a packet printed. Now we have a council that wants a full packet. And that's why we had to move up the deadline, cause it takes a lot of time to sort it and get it
yeah.
all. It's just, it's a pain in the butt.
I mean, is that just paper cost or is that also the manpower cost?
It's not counting all the manpower, because when you have like ads and ads and ads, it comes, but I mean, it's more of just to try to be more efficient.
Sure. I mean, okay.
Like I said, you guys can decide what the
Yeah,
priorities
it's one of
are.
those. Okay, phone systems. What's the situation with the phones?
The phones just turn off randomly. They have not been good for probably 3-4 years. We wanted to do the website redesign, but we determined that working phones are probably a higher priority. So that's why that's in there. Our phone system, 17 years old maybe, 15, 17 years, it's old.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and then we have issues with our box, like shutting down in the back too, it's just,
Have we explored options like voice over IP?
yes.
Okay.
If we do that, we would go, and we would do, we'd like to do public works, fire, we'd like to do all the city departments so we can transfer to them too, cause right now we can't transfer to other buildings, we have to say, here's the phone number to public works, call them. So we'd like to update our ability to do that, just to provide a better service too.
Okay. And that would be like just new actual physical handsets and such?
Yeah.
Or, okay,
Yeah, and then the capability to also, remote and use them as well. We wanna make sure, and all the new systems usually are web-based now. I just wanna put a note in though, we do have to do an update on the website next year or the following year, because there is a new ADA law coming in that is requiring us to comply. Sarah, what year is it, 2026 or 2027? Okay, so I just wanna make sure you know, we do have to do that at some point.
okay.
That's a new federal law. But
Is that already factored into the capital?
we have it on there, but we just kicked it because phone service, we
Sure.
thought our phones were As much as I don't mind my phone not working, I think
Yeah.
it's probably something that should.
So we can plan for that, then the website.
Yep, I just wanna
redesign.
put that in there so you
Oh,
know
we
that.
put that into next year, I see that,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, squad car, we've been planning for that for a while too now, right?
Yes, and I think, do you wanna talk?
I mean,
Chief,
I don't know if we
what
need
you
to,
need?
I don't know if we need to jump into the
Yeah,
very generous packet you gave, but,
You mean the
But-
few trees I killed?
but, we can, I guess we could transition into that if we wanted to.
No, our squad car, the 2019 was in today for the oil change, tire rotation, and then what I thought was the wheel bearing, it turned out they said it was the brakes, so we have to get new brakes and rotors. I believe they said rotors too, on that one, and that goes in again on Friday. And the 2021 squad goes in tomorrow for oil change, tire rotation, the alignment pin, and because alignment pins were out, we had wearing on the tires, so we need new tires on the front. Yeah, these Tahoes have been a nightmare.
Yes, they have.
And the 2019 still does not have air conditioning. That's where I'm not, if we're gonna get rid of it, so I'm like, why spend over
Right.
$600 to fix it
Yeah.
when it's gonna go down the road?
Just,
Well, the 19's gotta go.
Yes.
and I think based off of the problems we've had, it makes sense to replace it. And so I don't see anything then the next 6 years after that. When is the normal?
Or it's next
Replacement.
year, in 2026, there's one down below, a second squad
So
car.
that'd be the other
That's the
one.
other one.
But then after that, we're good for a while?
We usually try to do a 4-year rotation, so that's not included in there, we'll have
Okay.
to. It's usually a 4-year rotation.
Okay.
So you're saying there's no way that we can move this up a year? Boom, back to 26 to 27 rather, 25 and 26.
No,
I think the
squad car is
the,
done.
the one has to be replaced, but maybe the other one we could kick down another year.
We'll see, I mean, that's already at 70, or no, now it's 80,000 miles on it,
Okay.
and we average 25,000 a year.
Do we sell them? Like, do we sell the old one?
The last ones we had, we've just traded them back into the dealership and they took them off on the price.
Just to credit?
But
okay.
it's only been a few thousand.
Sure.
So it's not. What I would try to do with this one is, Mid-State Auto, auctioneer place is where like if I forfeit a vehicle, they come and get it and they do all the legwork and everything and and the transferring of the titles and they just send us the check. That's what I would look at. They told me that they also take old squad cars and so I would be looking at that, so.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Parks, Norway Drive Park improvements, that's the skate park, right?
Yes.
What are we doing?
There was some discussion of adding some additional skate park stuff just 'cause it's getting so old, all the equipment is.
So replacing or adding more?
Probably replacing, I mean, that came from Holdridge, whenever Norway was built back in.
Trail improvements?
That's just additional on the walk trail, every once in a while we do that, just to try to, if we're getting behind on them,
Is that just like the
walk trail.
like the maintenance and upkeep on the ones we already have, or is that adding
Yes.
more?
no, that's update.
Okay.
There are
We also have,
go ahead,
we have a line item in the budget, you'll see of 5, and then we get money from the, donation. So that's already in the other budget too, this is additional, like, this year, that was covered in the line item, and the donation should cover Norman Avenue Trail this year. So this is above and beyond.
we try to do a leg every year, just because some of it's in such bad shape.
Yeah.
But no, it's not adding anything new. The only new stuff was obviously the Highway 23 stuff we've added.
Right.
in
Well, yeah,
25.
Park improvements, play structures. We didn't spend $60,000 this year on park improvements, correct?
Yeah,
That was allocated?
it's allocated. He's got a quote to talk about tonight.
I
today.
got a deal for you.
Oh, I love deals.
They don't have that packet yet, or?
They do.
They just got it
It's
tonight,
in
yeah.
there. Was
They
it-
just got it tonight.
Oh, that was the new one tonight, yeah, sure.
It came,
Okay.
last of it came today, so.
Is
We're
that,
not gonna ask for a decision tonight.
is that part of our agenda, or should we transition into just what this is quick?
You can do that, that's fine.
Okay.
It's on the agenda, but that's fine.
All right, what do you got? Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I had it on and then it got shut off. So, we'll just put it over here so we'll shut her down. After the school did theirs, I talked to the people we keep hearing we gotta replace ours. This company that did the schools I talked to, they came out and looked at it and they feel, as you see her email there, they said, no, they've done worse. They took pictures, whatever of it. They gave us a proposal to redo it. It'd have a 5-year warranty. And they'd fix all the cracks. They'd recoat it, repaint it, reline it. We'd have a tennis court and then pickleball court. And that comes up to I don't have it here, 53,300, I think, 8.4. Somebody add that real quick. Oh yeah, 53,400 maybe. For color coding it, for right way of the crack repair system, the pickleball courts, and then the new tennis net post system and all that. Put that in there also.
Is that a combination? Tennis?
One tennis and pickleball courts on them on each end, like the school, like the west ones of the school did. Kind of like it. The school did 4, they did them on the insides, we would do them on each, on one court. There's some fence work, I don't know if I say you guys just got this today in my email. There's some fence work that needs to be done. We would hire that locally, so that would burn up some money there. So we could be burning, using up some more money.
What kind of guesstimate you looking at?
It wouldn't go over the 60,000 budget.
I think it's either 53.4 or 53.9. Do you need 2 of the 500s on the last page? Cause it's in it per lines, per set, or is it 3?
Oh, we might need 2.
So if you need 2, then it's 53.9. Or if and then the new post, is that just one tennis net?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
then I think it's 53.9.
We would verify. We're not gonna ask for a decision tonight, being you just got this. It's a 60-day proposal. They say the gate there, if you've ever been on there, it's not we have to make it accessible. Maintenance on it's a nightmare. You can't get anything on it. You can't get leaves out of it. Everything's done manually to pull leaves out. We put a gate on each end or something where you could get in to get them. So things like that are mainly we'd probably end up leaving some of the fence there. It's not a full rebuild of it, I don't think, in my opinion right now. But I haven't had Ben Boom or anybody out to look at it yet either. But if we do that, then we'd get rid of that $30,000 for next year.
See, we were trying to put some money away systematically to
Right.
do the full.
So this would be redoing the tennis court at Lions Park.
This company, I guess according to what Mark explained to me, this company thinks it can be salvaged
Like
and
resurfaced or what have you.
for, 5 years or.
And if we don't do it in 5 years, it's gonna last 10, yeah. It's just if we wanna extend the warranty, and I say that's in that material I sent right on, we could spend another 30,000 in 5 years, and then extend the warranty 5 more years. 35 or something, I think, wasn't it? 35 to 40 in 5 years, they'd extend the warranty 5 more years. Not saying we can't do it now. This was built, I believe in 82, the best I can find. Might have been resurfaced once or twice way back. I don't remember.
And it's one court? Right?
Proposed?
Isn't there only one court there?
Yeah, there's one court, and that's what we put back as one court with 2 pickleball on each end of it. A movable pickleball on each end.
That's what a lot of cities are doing right now, doing a compound.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, so something to think about, and then, I know Lions Club also expressed interest in donating money to help support that as well.
So do we wanna put it on the agenda for September? Maybe
Sure.
do some thinking on it and,
Yeah, I think it's worth, we budgeted money to make some park improvements, we should do some.
Yeah, I think we talked about that, and then we also talked about like just Lions Park, shelter, you know, just, we said we support the park, but it was like that, all of it to go to the pickleball court, we were concerned with that price tag. You know.
Yeah, cause the price tag was like 200,000.
Yep, 200, I think it was.
That's a complete rebuild. But if we can keep doing this, or we don't do it in 5 years, and then in 10 years, you guys come back and stick 60 into it again, you know, where's your make or break on spending 40 every 5 or 60 every,
Right,
maybe it'll be 70 back then, I don't know.
okay, good.
So we could move that 30, but we could really use some of it to do the scout house siding.
And that work there, Mark, your guys would do it,
I,
correct?
they feel they did the roof.
Yep.
I do have, and I didn't print it out, cause I don't know where, we have firm pricing on it. The windows are 2 years, last November, but, I don't know.
The Scout House is the one that's next to or near Lions
We've
Park?
been putting a little bit away, so we were gonna do windows. Well, the problem is, to do windows, we gotta tear that siding off each side of it to do it right.
Right.
If we're gonna wrap them and all that. Well, now you got siding off, you put the old siding back on, don't you? Well, we can't get ahead on it, so a one-time here would get fascia soffit, soffit, fascia, everything would get done. Soffit, fascia, yeah. what else is in it? Windows,
Windows.
but it was about $12,000 with, windows are about $335, and then about 9 for the soffit fascia and all that. Like that doesn't include interior trim, whatever, sometimes there have to be some work done inside. To redo the windows, we put casement windows in there. My opinion, I'm not a carpenter.
But that's something that the scouts could help with too?
Maybe, yeah.
Sure.
Definitely, I would propose.
Even
that
from
we-
like a fundraising standpoint of some sort?
Tearing siding off, I know they wanted to do the roof, but we had an issue with the height, so we couldn't do it.
Or an Eagle Scout project.
Exactly.
Might be.
But could they also do some fundraising efforts to help raise funds for the
Mhm.
materials?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or,
They have a
I mean,
cleanup day.
I feel like there's a lot of companies out there that if they proposed, if we can come up with half of it, would you match the other half or something like that?
Right.
I'm just spitballing, but,
That building and the warming house are the two out there that really need work yet. The shelter, we did, redo the gable ends, we put all new fascia on there, and then, we put new siding, vertical siding on the gable ends, put a deep red on there, cause that brown wood is really ugly, and that was on everything. Just did that out of regular budget this year, and we'll be within our lines, and, the guys did it themselves. So, we took the old shelter, somewhere we're gonna have to put that replacement of that old shelter in here, not next year. We tore the sides off of it and then painted the upper half of it, and, looks much better. It was just ugly up there, I'm sorry, it was ugly up there for years, that old green shelter. And I finally had enough, so like I say, it's open up, they can see all the way through it if you want it, from one road to the other, you can see what's going on. Something we'll have to consider, and I say we did not put it in a line here, it's not gonna be in the next couple of years, but hopefully we can fit it in somewhere. Maybe the Lions would help with something like that,
right. So if we said yes to the pickleball thing, the $30,000 for 2025 would come off.
No,
Well,
he's asking to use it for Scout and.
Right.
10,000 and
Hmm.
10,000 to Scout and 7,500 to warming house.
Hmm.
Cause again, that's the first thing you see when you come in that park and you have a roof that basically has no paint left on it,
Mhm.
faded brown with the holes in the steel and stuff like that. If we're gonna do the tennis court, I think it'd improve that park a lot. And then that park is sitting pretty good besides that old shelter.
Yeah, cause the equipment there isn't too bad.
We're
It's
gonna have
Holdred,
to look at.
it's the Holdred equipment that I think is real worse for wear.
Yeah, we got,
Stuff in the front.
we
Yeah.
got,
Yeah.
Right.
we got two good sets in Lions. The stuff back by towards the Scout House is really old, but
Okay.
it'll be smaller stuff. But play-wise, yeah, you got two nice sets there.
So you said 75 and 12, so we'll call it 20?
No, 10,000 the Scout House will cover it, plus what we have in the budget, cause we would buy the windows this year on this year's budget, we have about 4,000 left in this year's budget, and the windows are about 3,500, they're gonna be about 3,300. So we'd buy them this year, and then we would only need about 10,000 more, or 9,000 more for next year. Plus about,
what do you need for both?
For next year, right?
Yeah, what would you need for total for both projects next year?
add 10 to the park one line item, and add 7,500 to the skating rink line item, is the easiest way, that's how we did it.
So 17,500
Yeah, but it'd be
off of the
split,
30,
it'd be split between two, and there, yeah, it should be
Yeah.
12,500 left, right?
12.5, it'd lower by 12.5.
Yeah, we're lowered by 12,500.
I have a question. Being I've only lived here 6 years, I don't know what the heck the Scout House is. I don't know who uses it, how much it's used, and why it's used. I know about the warming house and who uses it and why it's used and how much. I wanna know about the Scout House and
Yeah,
how did
go
it
ahead.
get built?
Scout House was built in the late 80s, I believe. It was a joint project between the city, the Kiwanis, and the Lions Club, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And that's who did the fundraising, it got built and donated to the city. And now we take care of it and we pay for everything, and the Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts use it. I don't know if there's other groups that use it anymore currently or not. But, there used to be some daytime groups that were in there they let use, but I don't know. So, but we carry the insurance, we carry the ownership, we carry the, and I say, we did, the guys did the roof here 3 years ago, maybe? And I say the windows are really the thing, they're single pane, some of them are, so. But once we looked at it last fall, it was like, we had lumberyard out there.
Let's see what it does. Can you just clarify for Monica now?
I was gonna say,
What's the
let's start at the,
change?
yeah,
So we
what's
can see
the
what the
change
change is
with,
gonna do?
Can we add it to a line item?
Well, so what I'm wondering, what we should do is add that scout extra portion you need in the Scout House improvements,
In a CIP,
in the CIP.
yeah.
So, and then, yep, so add that as, what, did you say 7,500?
10 for Scout,
Okay, so 10,
In addition to the 4,000 that's in the operating?
yeah,
okay.
Okay.
and then 7,500 for the warming house. I think that's high, but once we tear into that, you know, the door is shot, we can't lock it except in this, you know, we have a hasp on it now.
You wanna just add another, just to make it easier? She's just gonna,
Okay.
Oh, I thought you wanted more money.
no, absolutely not.
And you said 7,500,
Yes,
okay, but then
Okay.
this 30 would go away.
30 will go away.
All right,
Cause I wanna make sure we were.
Right.
so that's a
Same page there.
reduction of
12,500.
12.5, so you reduce the levy by 12.5, so if you wanna go just to the main page and just see what it does, that's fine too. If you just wanna go to the general fund and then
Sure.
reduce that by minus 12,500, that'll do it.
About a percentage.
And then would you just hold that and write that down so that we can,
I mean, then I feel at least we're making headway on some of the things to actually improve the parks.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah, a lot of little projects, but it, you know, go along with.
take a look at Lions Park, the shelter, what it is done. I mean, the guys did between the bathrooms now, I think we're gonna do the kitchen maybe in the next year.
Kitchen's coming up.
Yeah.
Do we ever look at the possibility of enclosing that? Or is that not really or does that end up not being an option? I mean, not anytime soon.
Enclosing.
You know, cause right now it's just open.
Oh, you're talking the main structure?
Yeah,
We talk about it, but also the issue is there's nowhere for a family to pull in there and have a picnic tent. Holdridge has shelter 2, shelter 3, people can go. You know, besides that old shelter that's way over there, there's nowhere you get a lot of road traffic that comes in there. Surprised during the day how many people will just pull off the highway and they see the sign and go in there.
okay.
So that'd be the disadvantage, they're gonna be sitting out on a table in the park. You know, I mean, although I'd love to close it, the moving traffic, I don't know what we do with that.
Okay. I think we made it through parks.
Play structure.
Oh, play structure, and oh yeah, for the next year, so, I mean, have we gotten any like bids or anything, or on that?
The price is, again, a year, when was the last time we did that? It was in the, it was probably upper 30,000s, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. So normally, you're,
Are you looking, can I ask a question, are you looking at doing, we did the new structure in Holdridge, we did the new structure in Lyons, and they're the same. Are you looking at doing something different than that?
what we were gonna do is the one that we talked about 2 years ago, Gary.
Yeah.
The front of Holdridge Park.
Yeah,
Get
but
rid of
what
the-
kind of structure is it?
Put back a swing set, put back a, and we could send that back out, a swing set, jungle gym, well, not a jungle gym thing, there's a name for it, a jumpaholic and a teeter-totter, whatever, it's 4 pieces in there.
Okay,
To me,
so
it's
it's
pretty
different.
simple for 45,000, but
Okay.
that's what you,
I just wanted to make sure it was something different.
yeah,
You know.
no, it's
Mhm.
replacing those 4 in front of the shelter, and again, what the first thing you see when you come to the
Yeah,
park.
well, the play system, the furthest from the shelter
That's the one that's
is,
bad.
is near dangerous.
It's the one we got for free from the school,
We should,
I know why we got it for free.
right? Didn't we get it for free?
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll talk.
I mean, that one, I mean, that's more of a,
With what we
that's
got,
more of a concern than replacing anything, it's
but
maybe
with
just
what we
getting rid
got
of
there,
the-
can we put this off for another year?
What's that?
With what we got, can we put that other one off for another year?
We can put it off forever,
Or could you do it in pieces?
no,
No? Okay.
I would not recommend that. Cause you gotta put the border around it, the chips and all that, you gotta build.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean, I'm fine holding off on anything with Holdridge if we're gonna do these few projects at Lyons. And we can tackle Holdridge
I think we got enough there to get by for
another
now.
year. I mean, I'm not concerned about getting new play structures as much as I am concerned about getting rid of the one that's
Right.
seemingly dangerous.
The one that we're taking out is older than that. 40 years ago, I painted that because it looked really bad, so I painted that. It was in rough shape then,
Those are the ones in front.
yeah.
Where they have a jungle gym like we played at, well, like 74-year-old people played on.
Yeah.
And,
Is that the one with like the big giant metal slide? Are you talking about that one?
No, slide is gone now, we got rid of all those type of slides.
it's got a
Oh.
merry-go-round.
There's a merry-go-round we got free from the
Swings.
school, a swing set.
And the jungle gym.
Oh, okay. And we're talking about,
They need to go.
and that was talking about getting rid of that and replacing it with something different.
Similar things,
Okay.
yeah.
Can't we take that out 1 year and do the replacement on another cycle? I mean, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Do we think that there would be some charitable gambling money out there from other places that would donate to something like that?
Oh, I met, told them what it was gonna cost. I thought they were gonna fall off their chair.
Or even a
But they
portion?
didn't like, maybe somebody else go up there. They didn't like the way it was presented. I told them we owed the city something. They didn't think they did. Kinda pissed me off.
Other organizations out there? I mean,
We got,
a park is kind of a community thing, is
Yeah.
what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I mean,
we got,
Or do you budget portion of it this year and then next year, and then if we are able to get charitable contribution, it can go this year? Like a,
yeah. We got a new commander, I can go back again and plead my case.
I mean, I don't know if I'm sold on the park structure for 25. Not the full amount at least.
my thing is, what does it look like to just, if it's something we know we wanna do or need to do, let's put something in there, even if you split it up, just so that it doesn't fall off, and all of a sudden then we're stuck 3 years later. We need to do it now, and we have nothing.
So could we do, like you mentioned, half now, half next year?
It
Or-
was just a suggestion, and then if something maybe were to come through with a donation and we get it, or, you know, somebody says, hey, yeah, I'll help with that, and then we can do it, you know. At least it keeps it kind of in the running if you fund some of it.
Mhm.
It's getting to the point now, it's not crucial, but I would think if we start working on this, we get enough to do it
Maybe,
come spring.
maybe you need to take out the old stuff and then
There you
have
go.
the gap.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if people
I
see the
would-
gap, then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
oh wait, we need to fill this
Right.
in. I don't know, it's just a suggestion, I just hate to completely kick it off and then we get in a bigger
Yeah.
pickle in 3 years because we have
Yeah.
nothing.
Right.
People will notice if we take it out, the lawsuit equipment, because that's what it is. They will notice that because the pool is right there. And there is early learning that goes there to the park and plays. People will notice. Get rid of it and then make the forward move next year. And if you gotta chop it into pieces, you gotta chop it into pieces. I don't wanna wait for a kid to get hurt in our park to do something.
And maybe with that, once it's gone, maybe we could put on our website, do you have any suggestions? What would you like to see here? I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you do that, then you might
Get
tap
more
into some
answers.
donations or something, you know, people might wanna participate.
Well, I mean, so if we thought putting half the amount into next year's budget and do what we can to maybe solicit for the other half in kind.
If you get, you know, if it's something that's really desirable, I think it's really, if it's something that's gonna happen in the next few years, we need to start really mindfully
Right.
putting money away.
Well,
Or-
our play systems, I mean, there needs to be updates
Yeah.
to that one as well as the one in the far back could just be removed and
Right.
Well,
everyone would
There's
survive.
the new one right in front of it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a better-ish one, yeah.
yeah. Do we
Well,
wanna see what it looks like to
Let's,
do
what
like?
does it look like to budget half now,
Can
half
we do
next year?
25-25, cause you waited 2 years ago.
Yeah,
It'll
let's
probably
do,
go up,
let's
sure,
do
yeah.
25, and then, so then you would take 20 off of the general. Wow, that is a lot of feedback. Is it that one? That's the other problem with the mics. Alright, and then you take 20 off of this year's, right? On the general fund?
Yep.
Okay. And the magic number is?
Okay. Moving on to New Holland tractors.
It's down by a percentage.
Talk to me about this one, Mark. I know we had a discussion
Yeah,
about it.
20 years old, it's, honest answer's been a lemon from day one.
Yep.
And it's finally got to its 20 year where we can get rid of it. It's been when we got it, we sat for the first, summer, we couldn't get tires for it. They were on a ship somewhere. We done the radiator, water pump, air conditioner trouble yearly. The biggest thing, it's underpowered and parts availability are the big things. When it goes down, now the last one parts I found down in Plainview, Minnesota, actually, when the water pump went out here this year. So, it's just.
What's
And
it used for? What's this one used?
Mainly ditch mowing,
Okay.
you know, whatever, and we've been trying to do more of that stuff, and it goes down and it's out for 2 weeks or whatever. We also had an issue with the Tiger mower this year, and that's a newer separate thing, so I don't wanna blame it all on the tractor.
Needless to say, waiting a year is not an option, huh?
What's that? We don't have, like I said, we don't have to have any mowers. Just don't send me the letters, emails when the grass ain't getting grown.
So,
It would give us a lot more time to do a lot of other stuff. It needs to go.
So, and that's the only one we have? Like the only
Yeah.
opportunity to do the ditch mowing?
Yeah, no, I say, any of this stuff, I say, you guys make the decision, we're not trying to be, we're giving you what we think is right. You know, if it was mine, what would I do? I'd be rotating it out. It does need tires, but again, that's not big money, but we obviously aren't gonna put them on this year knowing what are we gonna do, but we're not saying that's why you put it on.
Looking at a
And Mark,
different-
you're pretty confident with that number?
Yeah,
Okay, like we've looked at them lately? Okay.
Looking
So
at a
you would
different brand.
what was that?
Looking at a different make.
We'd probably go with either Kubota or John Deere,
More power,
a little bigger power,
okay.
and,
What
it's
else?
just, you know, when they mow like, let's, in that tall grass, you know, it's so slow, you gotta go and, burn belts off, you know, if you aren't careful, you can burn a belt, but it just finally got to it, 2005, we bought it for just over 30,000, 33 with tax we paid back then, and, nice tractor, it's good shape, and I hope we can get some money for it back. It's just,
The maintenance.
the
on it.
maintenance, yeah, and it's not anyone's fault, I don't blame the past, I don't blame the people who operate it, I don't blame,
So
you
by,
get the,
by getting a different machine and more power, would you have more use for,
I would love to someday find a tip down mower, like a used one or something. We could do more in the ditches, like this with this highway out there, we've made a long ways on it this year. But we can't do, it's such steep slopes that we can't do, and, you know, MinDOT's gonna come and mow, they haven't made it yet here this year, so.
Right.
It's,
We're gonna be responsible for 23?
if we want it done on a regular basis,
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
yeah.
So, and the subject of mowers, there's a mower also, request for $40,000.
What we did there, Brandon, was, we moved a couple things over to get that moved up. We felt that was a higher request. We're just mowing more and more places, and one can't keep up, or especially if it goes down. So we would not trade in a mower. Our Toro would stay. We have a Toro Groundsmaster now.
Hmm.
Up somewhere higher, lower, I don't know where you're at. It's somewhere, there's a Toro mower on. Oh, it's under Parks? So technically, this one will get moved up to Parks, really, that line would. But we felt that more was more important than an air compressor. If our air compressor, I think, was 37,000 there. We felt if the compressor goes down, we can always rent one. We do have the county as an immediate backup. You know, a mower goes down, we were looking to rent one this year. It's been down multiple times. And, we just put a new electric clutch in it this past week or 2 weeks ago. And I say we're not getting rid of that, it's just when they go down, it's, you know, you're pretty much mowing steadily in the parks all summer long. And to lose a week is really hard. So it'd give a little more versatility, we're mowing more areas, like I say, we're doing the highway, we're widening that out. Some other areas we've taken over with the Toro mower. Just to make it look nicer. Looking at a few other spots on the highway maybe to do. So, that was a swap of money, so I think there's a couple, we were too bunched up this year on equipment. We had trucks over here and stuff, and some of that stuff next year is gonna get bumped too, I can tell you that already, 'cause
well, like what? Well,
in 2026.
right, what would you bump?
I'm assuming 9801 and is probably, if we
Okay.
get a snow truck yet this year, and we had one, we missed out on it. I'm assuming that snow truck will get bumped.
It's not gonna snow, I could tell.
Yeah,
No, it's, if we get a decent truck this year, and I tell you that truck has, all those would get bumped 1 year. But that's not gonna affect next year's, but.
so
It ju-
we're pretty strong on the,
We feel the Toro is.
Tractor and the Toro?
The lawnmower is, yeah, and I say that's why we gave up other stuff, we knew we couldn't add, and we moved the other stuff over to, same with the asphalt roller, for you guys that have been here, that's been what, 5 years we bumped that over? Yeah, we need it, we gotta borrow one, rent one, whatever, but what do you do? We
and
don't
these
do
are
it that often.
new items, right?
That asphalt roller would be used,
Okay,
yeah, that one we'd find a used one out there.
but the New Holland
Would be-
tractor,
Would be new,
that would be new, and then the John Deere lawnmower, that would be new.
yes.
Okay.
That price is a little high, but it is the next size up, so I put the higher price in there, not.
For
as
the
a-
mower.
As a mate to our Toro is about 8,000 less, but if we go the next motor size up, we would be, that's why we went a little higher. So,
Okay,
things that I think, you know, if it was my money, that's the route I would go and push the other stuff, it's less, we can get by without this, you know, Bobcat, it's going in to get fixed at Farm Right someday this week, whatever motor's out, the controls, but it's part of maintenance, you don't,
Yeah.
we don't use it that often anymore, where we bump that, I think, too. I mean, we use it a lot, but
Okay.
it's not for snow anymore, dedicated for snow, so it's got a little more leeway.
What other items am I looking at that
don't-
would affect the levy?
Would be, fire CIP.
Would the streets plan affect anything?
The streets plan,
'Cause we have quite a, I mean, beyond obviously our,
well,
the obvious.
the project, some of that, you know, you gotta realize those big items are part of the project, you'll see the bonding money at the bottom come into play.
Okay.
Yep, so
Oh,
that's
sure.
different.
Yep.
So you have just a couple minor things when you compare the rest of it, but yeah, that would affect. And we do have the budgeted revenues of the 75,000 helping the street CIP. So we were able to lower that overall levy because of those franchise fees coming in.
So for example, the industrial park expansion is listed in
Yeah.
2025.
It is because, we have an opportunity for a, deed grant for
Yep.
50% as soon as we have a committed occupant.
Sure.
So we would apply for that whenever it happens.
When we get that.
But that could be next year, that could be a couple, you know, we are still kinda working
It
through
just
that.
kinda rolls over then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then seal coat overlay, those are, we just did one, we approved one at the last meeting. Mark has been trying to do those, kind of grouping it, but we try to put something in there every year just to keep up. The idea is that you keep doing those maintenance in between, the longevity of your road surface is gonna extend.
And we have on here the 13th Ave and Mariah Drive, but those are probably old bids now.
I think they're under numbers, yeah.
But that's something, again, we could, with the engineer and amendments, or addendums with the, possibility of doing those at the same time.
Yeah, and another thing I will also mention is we do have, those, service fees that the state has imposed,
Oh.
delivery fees.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't able to get a straight, you know, they're just coming into play now,
Yeah,
so there's not been much money. They passed a little bridge, but it wasn't much at all. Was it, Monica? We had a little bit, we just threw it into the street CIP, but that may be a potential funding source that we'll see pop on here
sure.
starting next year, but it takes so long for them to generate.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I think it just came on a month or two ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
July,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll put that on there as well.
okay.
But I don't know that there's a lot you can move off of that right
Sure.
now.
Okay, then. Good.
I guess, one question, Mark, as we talked earlier this year, conversation with the county on a certain road, they wanted funding.
Gravel?
Gravel, yeah. Is that in here at all?
Right now it isn't, no.
Okay.
I think we should concentrate on our city streets before we, you know,
Cause we're looking at probably
20,000,
20,000,
wasn't it?
yeah.
That's unfortunate, I mean, you gotta pick your priorities, I guess, you know, but it's just the traffic numbers aren't there, you know. And the other thing is, being there, it worries me a little bit, well, I don't foresee it in a few years, but there's maybe, you know, might be some discussion on the adjoining property to the south. If all of a sudden something would happen there in the next 3, 4, 5 years, now we stuck that money, now we're probably gonna make them hard surface that road, I would think, if
Yeah.
something goes up there.
Right.
Let's give it a year or two here to feel, maybe we can put some of it on there, the gravel, not that much. You know, maybe we can take some street money and put a fourth of it on there and at least get something to seal it or whatever.
Sure. Instead of redoing the whole thing.
Instead of building it up to 3 inches,
Right.
yeah. Be an idea there, but I just hate to do it and then something happens
Right.
on town's property.
Yeah, and I, you know, it all takes time, but we've had interest. You know, we've
Mhm.
had a lot of inquiries, so. I kind of agree with that, let's limp
Yep.
it by until we have
See
something
what
more
happens.
concrete.
Move to the fire fund? Oh, sorry.
It just, it's nice to have the spirit of cooperation, you
Oh.
know? If we could work together with them at some point, I
Yeah.
mean,
Hmm?
I think you've done that before, though, we've had to throw a little bit down or do, work
Oh,
with
yeah.
them on stuff,
Yeah,
I
but it
mean,
was
but this one here, they were talking like, there's nothing left,
13, well, it's almost 20,000,
yeah.
right? That's
Yeah,
it,
and that was for the whole road, and I mean, it seems like a lot, but if we could work with them, maybe a little bit, cause we, like I say, see what the future holds.
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay.
And if we gotta get, TS to blade it once in a while, so be it.
Yeah.
What's with the fire hall parking lot?
Mill and overlay now,
Mill it and,
probably got a mill and overlay, yeah, it's, I think it's far enough now, again, like I say, they get so far gone, it doesn't pay just to overlay them, you almost gotta do a mill and overlay.
I didn't know if you were talking about seal coating some of the streets, I
No.
didn't know if that could do seal coat.
What I'm thinking about, so just looking ahead at the roof, I mean, would it be maybe not beneficial from a cost standpoint, but if we did the parking lot the same year as the roof, and we would do the roof first, and then followed by the parking lot? That way we're not having additional equipment and all the things that come along with taking the roof off and putting a roof on and traipsing all over the new overlay.
If we can bump them both to next year,
So do both in 26?
yeah, if we, I don't know what that's gonna do to the funding numbers, it's gonna throw them out of whack.
I'd be cautious, you know,
Yeah.
maybe keep half of it in, I guess we did the other thing, if you do that, just to make sure we get something moving on it,
If
if
you
you
want
anticipate it.
a gap, move it to 27 for the roof, if you want a year of letting the parking lot sit.
Is the roof steel?
We've had
Okay.
a lot of trouble with it.
Leaks,
trouble.
leaks and such,
Well,
right?
We think we got the last of them fixed this summer, the big one. We went up there and they tore off around that last chimney and, replaced the wood, replaced the ice and snow stuff,
Hmm.
new boots, inner and outer, and I think we're there. We haven't seen any leaks.
So
Since.
it's really not a fix, it's a patch.
Well, it's a patch, but it's not running in when it's raining,
Yeah,
you know, through
I
the,
mean, myself, if it comes to replacing that, I think that has priority over the lot.
I think the lot's much worse than the roof is right now.
I drove through the other day and it looks a lot better in our streets. Man,
So you would rather see the roof
you want a
the
gap
roof,
in there
the
to
roof
work-
kicked down further than the lot?
Yeah.
And then, what did we just buy this year? For a,
Tanker 3, that's at 400,000 there.
oh, that's what we bought?
Well,
We ordered it.
yeah.
Yeah, you ordered
It'll
it.
be here next year, and
We
that's
bought
what,
a Tahoe, well, you didn't buy this, fire department bought a Tahoe they donated.
yep.
Yeah.
But that's what we, one of
We
the,
ordered the tanker,
we ordered the tanker.
Yep, 'cause
yeah.
there's a
But
long
it takes
lead
a
time.
long lead time,
Yep.
okay,
Yep.
that's what that's for, okay.
Down near 2 year.
So that's already factored in. What's the Bombardier?
The track machine for grass fires.
Oh.
It's just if we can ever find an upgrade, we have it hanging there in case something shows up. There's just nothing used out there. You know, the good ones are up in Canada and,
They're always using them?
well, they're burning up right now the last so many years, so, yeah, gonna.
So, I mean, would it be, is this something we can budget half one year and half another year? Or is it, you have to have it, so when you find it, you can move on it?
Is that gonna make much effect?
well, if you lower the levy, like if you budget half and then you plan for it the next year, you know, you could change when you go to the tax base to get it. But if you wanna move on it, I mean, we've repaid back before. You've
Yeah.
done that with your last fire truck, you had to borrow and pay back.
Right.
So that's something that's gonna be replaced right now, or you're still looking to get a
We,
deal?
we've got, we have our eyes out and contacts out there.
Hmm.
We found a contact up in northern Minnesota that works with DNR. Don't know much about them, but it was given to us. Biggest thing is get a bigger cabin there with a two-person seat.
Okay.
You know, that's as soon as we can find one. Yeah, I'd be
So it
open to
could-
whatever way you do there, and if we borrow, cause will it happen next year?
How long have you been looking for one?
10 years?
So it's
8
safe to
years?
say that it may not be next year either.
Well, we started aggressively looking 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You know,
Okay.
and that's whenever Canada started, right before Canada started burning, so
Okay.
whatever that was, the first time.
That's dark.
Still is.
Okay,
We had a vendor, the vendor company, that's what DNR is buying out, these new machines. And of course, we'd like to buy a used one, we don't wanna buy, we can go buy a new one, but
how often do we use it?
that's the problem. You might use it a couple times a year, you might use it 10 times a year, and you might use it 1 or 2 times a year, and
Hmm.
the rest is for training and stuff like that. It's a specialty piece, so it's kinda hard to,
Sure.
And by going with a bigger unit or a
double
two,
seat.
you would have to get a different trailer or anything?
Trailer will have to, but it's, one of the tankers will be pulling it, the new,
The new one?
right now the new one's designed to, but I'm hoping the old one can,
Okay.
so we differ a little on that out there, but the old one's a little more less powered and it'll keep it down.
So what would be the benefit of doing half this year, half next year?
If you did half this year, you could lower this year's tax levy, but you'd have to add half next year. You know, so you're basically just splitting over when you collect the money from the taxpayers.
What would happen if we moved the roof to 27 and the bombardier to 26? But then, he happens to find one, which apparently is very hard to do. How would we work through that, if that happened?
Could we take it out of
We might
reserve?
even have enough fire cash to cover it. We have done that too before, so the last time we borrowed from another fund, the expendable trust, and then we also utilized fire fund cash, and then we just levied extra for a couple of years to pay it back.
Sure.
Yep.
So,
Fire does have, what's cash balance on fire? Let me see. It's looking better. 800.
okay,
It's come back. We had depleted it down a little bit, but it's come back now.
okay. So what do you think, Mark? 27 for the roof, 26 for the bombardier?
What if we find a bombardier in between, we'd be open to talking and take it out of reserves?
Given that
But then
it's,
pay it
given
back
that,
over a couple
given that
years?
it's that hard to find, I think we'd have to probably seriously, have a good conversation about doing it, because it's
Right.
that hard to come across.
Then what I would do is I'd put 50 and 25, 50 and 26. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I would do.
At least
Or
we
would
have
it,
some-
or would
That
it
we
be,
have something coming in to cover it if it comes in next year.
or could we do 25, 25, and 50?
Just see where this goes.
Mhm.
We don't
And then
wanna go-
move the roof to 27?
Yep.
I
So-
mean,
So then what you're doing is you're reducing your fire by 50.
Did it change it much, or?
well, not the annual, but it wouldn't change annual, it's the same amount of
No.
dollars.
But so essentially this is a standalone CIP. What's the levy right now at?
5-1?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's
Drastically.
almost unreasonable.
Right,
Oh.
we can't go,
Well, the tricky thing with the fire fund is it's paid for by township contracts, it's paid for by city tax levy. So you have multiple entities involved in this. So when we look at the expenditures, we have to make sure they're being shared amongst all of them. You know, we can't be charging the township more than what the city is paying. So you gotta be careful about trying to keep things steady. What is the CIP annually calling for?
114,
And what do we have in that line item? If you go to the fire budget,
I have it's 114.4 and I have 115.
okay. So, yeah, that's basically dropping that 115 by 50,000.
Which I haven't seen a 1% levy percentage, the whole
And we still haven't talked about downtown facade,
Right.
if you wanna do anything there. I have always encouraged, you should do systematic incremental increases. Because the minute you do 0 and we get slapped with a levy limit, we're in big trouble.
Right.
The state hasn't done levy limits for quite a while, but anything's possible with, the economic conditions. You always
So,
wanna go a little bit.
sure, so, so we're playing with numbers. But like you mentioned, we haven't talked about downtown facade, which I think has been a huge success. And hope for it to continue to be a success if we can find the way to fund it. But there's also opportunity for us to add elsewhere if we felt it needed it, correct?
Yeah, we
Or
can
is
add,
fire a completely separate bucket
No.
that we can't mess with?
you can shuffle. So if we decide later to shuffle, we can, as long as that bottom number doesn't go up. So you can do that.
So we could keep the bombardier at the 100,000, and if we decided to shuffle,
Mhm.
when we finalize everything, we could shuffle money
Mhm.
out.
I would, and, be mindful, this is a contract year for the townships. So they're gonna ask, what are the taxpayers paying in Foley as well?
Hmm.
For their fire department. And maybe we could do some checking into what the history, the levies have been the past few years. Because there's been a lot of change in the property valuations, so those contract rates have been, different.
The levies of the townships.
Our levy for the fire too, because, there's multiple funding sources. It's the fees we charge, it's the township contracts, and then it's the city taxes.
And we were at a 5.1 with the full 100,000 in there, right?
Right.
Yep.
Doesn't seem like a terrible.
Mark, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
'Cause
Well, I agree, we gotta be fair to the townships, cause they're paying 2/3 our budget.
Right.
The contracts make up, what, 300,000 of our budget.
Hmm.
300 or 400.
I used to calculate that years ago, maybe we could find that old spreadsheet of how the city always paid the most, but do you have that? We might be able to calculate what our contract rate would be and then compare that to our levy, and that might help you gauge too if it's within reason.
So we could, now, is that something you can do now, or is that something you'd bring
We'd bring back
back? So we could, because like you said, we
Right,
can't
okay.
add, but we can lower. So we'd wanna maybe leave the bombardier the way it is, and then we have opportunity to lower it, based off what you find.
Oh, maybe she is gonna be able to pull it up here.
So that's not the one, this is the one. So the city of Foley is, right
Look at
here.
that, 100,000. Wow,
One thing we have to remember, we're owned by the city.
Yep.
Which is good, we don't have a fire board. So you guys we listen to what the townships say, but you guys have the final vote on what goes on. That's worth a little bit.
We are at a higher percentage rate than everybody. City of Gilman is the same percentage, but the other townships are a lower percentage rate.
Or is that the rain?
It's rain.
Is that rain?
Trying to remember if my windows are open.
So, there is something to be said that we do not have a fire board. I have been in a city that does, and that really gets complicated. And I think we've really had a very good working relationship with our township officials, so it's important to work with them.
So seeing this, how does that affect then what our,
So what it's saying is the contract rate based on our valuation, how we calculate the township, is about 100,000. But historically, we've been higher than our contract rate, because we own it all. So it was coming out to 100,000, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
After we lowered it, right?
after we lowered it.
We were at 114 before we did, I think,
Yeah.
which is in line, I think.
And that was, 114 would have been 2025, and with, raise in property values, 2025 could be 115 for our contract amount.
Mhm.
Split the difference, I don't know.
What would the calculation be on splitting the
If I think
difference?
we did 125, cause wasn't it 150,
100.
100?
So if we did like 75-25?
Yeah, something like that. And then,
Add 25 to the,
yep, to the fire side. That's splitting the yeah, so, yeah, exactly.
All right.
That'd give you a bit more resources to
Yeah.
work with if you do find
Sure.
something. And then it keeps our contract rate probably more in line.
'Kay.
To what we've historically seen.
Seems fair.
And gives us a little cushion if you do fund the facade.
3% I don't think is terrible for everything that we've had thrown at us the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't wanna go too low though, I mean.
that's
Yeah.
it, you throw the facade in separately, and then you can lower the fire one down later if you need to cut one. You know, you can lower that one back down and. you know, put
Well,
your-
and we do wanna point out too, you know, part of we have that bond that came on too. That levy started this year for that one bond that we had backloaded. So, you know, that won't happen next year, we'll have a different levy coming on, but, you know, we had a couple variables. Considering what we had thrown at us, I think is
Right.
pretty good.
You put 20,000 separate in for facade right now, and then,
You wanna see
if you really think.
What would that-
If
Yep,
you know
I
you're
put
gonna
that in
move
the
money into there
EDA
later,
fund.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
So then, if you got a cut, we could cut the 25 back
Is
out.
there an operating line for that or not?
Mhm.
We might have a downtown revitalization, we could try to put it in there.
I don't know if that
Total?
whoops, that's,
Okay. 4.71.
And we're still at capacity to lower it before
We could
anything
lower it
happens.
next meeting too, before it goes to the tax statements. I mean, I think this is some headway.
and you can lower all the way till December.
I mean, we cut it in half, more than,
Right,
Where
I
we
mean-
started,
I think we started, cut it in half from where we started,
yeah.
like almost exactly, so.
The only other variable that I could see, you know, we still are waiting to set up our union negotiations. We did budget some stuff, you know, based on what we did with their other departments and, you know, but I don't know if you're following some of the settlements and stuff like that, you know. I don't know exactly how that will go out.
Have they been in contact with us yet?
Yeah,
They have not yet. They had the officers had, or the union rep from the officers met with the union LELS, but that's as far as it's been.
I mean, I can say the last couple contracts have been, I mean, the last one was not hard at all. Like,
Right.
they were very
Yep.
good to work with and
Right.
very reasonable, and we do have some really good people, I
Right.
think, involved in it, so but it's just
So-
something out there that's kind of
The numbers you
Well,
have in here,
we budgeted some stuff in
Yeah.
there, yep.
we could be confident?
I don't know, Minneapolis is at 21%, so
Right.
I don't know
Well.
that.
But we know why.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not following on track based on the data I got from the coalition. That's an outlier, a clear outlier.
I was gonna say, are we gonna touch base on these other items too that you
Yeah,
highlighted?
we can.
I mean, as far as moving on through I mean, I think we've tackled most of the big CIP items now, but you have some other overview items that you listed.
Yeah, go for it, whatever you'd like.
I mean, increase of roughly 1180 in LGA, is that just the membership dues?
No, LGA is local government aid. That's what we get from the state of Minnesota, so you'll see that on the bottom of that spreadsheet. LGA is an increase of $1,180, so not much.
Coming in.
Yep, so that's
Okay.
our state aid.
Okay,
They're pushing, you know, state aid has historically been very sluggish when it compares to the costs. And we got a little bump, but it's just kind of a never-ending battle when it comes to that.
And we don't have any control over what they decide.
Yeah.
And, or what the change is. Last year, the difference was, I believe, about 5,000, and this year the difference is just over 1,000, so it fluctuates.
And the COLA?
So we did, 3.5, yeah.
Mhm.
That is, we did 4 last year, so we were low last year, you know, it was tracking about 7% overall, but, we try to stick with that 3 to 4 consistently. So that is just a general across the board change in the step schedule.
Okay. Insurance increases, now you heard some large variations, did you just factor into the budget a 10 to 15? Is that
Yeah.
just the number you
Yeah.
landed on?
Usually like our, dental has been better, our life insurance, you know, those things have been more stable. We have been very fortunate, our health has been more stable, I think we just have a good group that we don't see a lot of fluctuations, and fortunately, most people have been pretty healthy, so that's good. I'd be shocked if we get something crazy. Usually, and our rep just reached out, and if he suspects it's gonna be really bad for us, he's usually giving us a heads up. But he didn't mention anything, he said, we'll just let you know, so. We've been fine the last few years.
Right. We've typically been, including a 10% increase each year, and we've, for the last few years, been under that by a few percentage points, so.
And we split the, increases with the employee and employer, so it is,
Okay.
it's not just strictly city, it's shared.
What's the continued contribution to Highway 23 Coalition?
So we have been a member of the coalition of Highway 23 for a few years, and I just keep making sure you know we're still a part of that.
Is it still a thing?
Mhm.
Okay.
They had a new executive director, so I think there was some changeover, but there was a meeting maybe a few months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, but I know Aaron Backman retired, so they're transitioning with that, individual, cause I got invited to his retirement party.
Okay, I was, with some of the legislative changes and everything, I didn't know if that would be a dream that would never come true now, kind of a thing.
Well, it's
So,
not just our project.
it's not just our area,
yeah.
but, okay. Foley area care contribution of $1,000 remains in budget. We've done that
We-
historically.
We just added that, was that last year, the first
Right.
year?
Last
Yep.
year.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or no, the Cross Center was
Cro-
new last year.
Yeah.
Care's been a
Cross
few
Center.
years.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's the Initiative Foundation?
We have contributed to them for years. We did up the contribution, cause we're very low compared to what they do. They do like some of those small business programs.
Yeah,
They actually were the seed money that started our, Trails and Pedestrian Plan and our Economic Development Committee
Right.
and Quality of Life, so.
I should have rephrased that. I know what Initiative Foundation
Yep.
is, but I didn't realize that we were contributing to
Well, and
the fund.
They have like, this year, one of our local businesses got training money from the Initiative Foundation. They have pitched in for another project that we had in town. Somebody did a capital project, they
Yeah.
pitched in money. So there is a benefit to that in
Mhm.
being a membership.
Okay,
Did have- Correct me if I'm wrong, but we did have money for a Cross Center in here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it might have just not made the memo, cause it was new last year, we might
It was
probably
pretty
just.
small.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we do that in March to match their
Right.
capital campaign,
Right.
to double it.
I want to circle back on the council tablets.
Okay.
Because I feel that we would all have to be in agreeance that we would no longer then take paper. If we're gonna spend $7,000 on tablets. Yeah, so we either continue down the path that we're, with how we do it, or, 'cause I would hate to, and I mean, I experienced this, where a board has tablets, but then they never use them.
No, and I would agree, and if we do it, we do not wanna mess with paper. The point of it is to be more efficient.
The I mean, which I agree could be more efficient, save money in the long run, absolutely, but then it'd have to be like an agreement that we're no longer going to require paper.
And you're gonna
documents.
train to use them and so forth, yeah.
So
You're
that's,
getting uncomfortable over there, I see.
you know, and so I'm impartial.
If you're not ready, you guys aren't ready, that's okay. you know, you tell us.
I mean, that's something we can decide to, as we nip and tuck this thing, but just something, think about that. I don't think we can justify spending $7,000 on tablets and then also continue to have some people
No.
take paper. I mean, it
No,
would
That's
be,
not
either one
worth
or
it.
the
it's
other.
one or the other.
Right.
at
I
that.
print mine now anyway, as soon as my PDF email comes, I print my own.
If you would
I-
not like a packet, let us know that too, because if we don't have
Okay.
to print, you know, 5 packets versus 8, you know, for whatever, let us know.
The only time I can't get a print is if it's oversized.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I print it.
Yeah, I view mine on my phone or, you know, at home or whatever on laptop. I mean, and then just get the auxiliary pieces when you come
And-
in, but,
And if you're not, like, if we're not sure about it, we could spend this year, you know, looking into it more, or maybe, you know, maybe you just need to connect with some other councils, how are they using them, and maybe that would help with being ready for that step.
yeah. Yeah, maybe we just kinda keep it on there for now and we can talk about taking it off if we feel that seems unnecessary. But then we just maybe make it a point to look into it more and,
Okay, Yep, that's fine.
I use both. I still like the paper, but I use both, and it's the future. I mean, let's face it, you know, I'm okay with it either way, but.
Personally, are we gonna get in an argument, are we gonna be an Apple or are we gonna be a Microsoft? One.
Apple.
I'm with you.
And,
Like I said, I do my own, and right now, I think you gotta look at people, and this whole panel here is probably not real savvy yet, and that can be a headache for the council.
That's where our staff will come in for that. They'll have
Right,
this
and then
sort of-
you'll have.
It'll be
that
incorporated
headache.
into your council training,
Okay.
mandatory.
All right, well, we'll stick a pin in it for now and we'll see kinda how we feel next meeting or whatever.
All right, what do you wanna do with downtown facade?
Fund it.
I
We're
think,
gonna
I
keep it
think
in
it should be,
there?
I think it
Okay.
should be fun, I
We
think it should at
have
least be
to.
in the,
Okay,
the
but
levy.
we put it in, I wanna make sure that was a consensus,
Yes.
okay. So
Any-
we're
I mean,
at then.
What about you two, how do you feel?
It's gonna come anyway. Won't
It-
done.
It has been very well received.
Yeah.
So we're at 4, and that includes facade, right?
Yep.
That includes tablets. Are we comfortable with that number?
I'm okay with that.
I mean, the fact that we cut it in half is, I
Yeah.
think, something to be said, and then we still have opportunity to
Right.
cut back if we need to.
Well, I think that's a,
I mean, last year we ended at 9 something, right?
last year was tough.
To the whole tree, just 1 second. Wrong one. I don't like not having a mouse.
I know, the mouse doesn't work, my Surface is kinda on its last leg, but I don't wanna get rid of it yet.
Well, you could donate it, you could learn.
Maybe that's what it could be your test trial if you like packets or not.
Yeah.
9.4. Lot better than that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's half,
Yep.
so,
Yeah.
that was last year's.
that was last year's.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel with some of the just park infrastructure things that we're doing, we're getting a bang for our buck then.
Yep, definitely.
We're getting equipment, we're getting
Yep.
things repaired, getting things fixed, fixing some of our parks, I don't know.
And then we will just come back with some extra, options or some ideas on the water sewer rates,
Yeah.
options, okay.
And just to clarify, chief, gas we're going with gas and not electric.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you,
In that long 7-page memo that I gave to you, that is number in the CIP is for gas. Yes, it's for, and in the memo, the first, chart, it's so like, say for the first one, just example, it's the first one. The Dodge Durango, to own it is $40,356, and then we have to pay on top of that, the additional graphics and equipment. For the leasing, it's an 18-month lease, and that, at that $1,527, that would be $73,300. And we would still have to pay for the service fees. So there's no win-win there. If the service fees were covered, that would be a different story.
Does that also include the equipment, or that's just for the vehicle?
No, that's just for the vehicle. Yep.
I mean, I was, as far as electric goes, I was on board if there was opportunity for, if they're gonna give us a ton of money to
Right.
purchase it, it's a good exploration.
Yeah, but after reviewing that grant process, it was, so like Sartell's grant, they won't see the money until, it's for the fiscal year of 2026. They may get it next July.
Hmm.
So, I mean, our city can't be in debt that long. We're smaller, we don't have as big a tax base, we don't have that big a budget.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and the unknowns is where I'm concerned at.
Yeah, I think there is something to be said about obviously if there was a larger police force, multiple vehicles.
Yep.
Having a electric vehicle wouldn't be
Right.
such a concern if something were to happen or what have you, have
Right.
6 more officers, 6 more vehicles, things would be a lot different, so.
Yep.
I
And
mean,
with
as
this-
we grow, it's something that we could think about or look into, and I'm
yes.
sure those programs will probably ebb and flow over the next 5-10 years, but,
And what we could do too is like, for me, I mean, I'm small, so it's not, but my other officers that are much larger in size of, built, they can go, I'm hoping I'll arrange it when Sartell gets theirs up and going, then my officers can go over and look at it to see even if it's possible, cause the Mustangs I saw are super tiny, there's no way of, our equipment would fit in there even, so.
Well.
So there's, I mean, down the road, I mean, I'm not saying it's never gonna happen, like, it's the future, but.
Yeah. Sounds like we need a vehicle now, so
Yes.
a lot of this is, not even feasible with how fast we need to get the
Yes.
new vehicle.
Yep.
I mean, I'm fine with, sounds like the Durango was your preferred.
Durango is $40,356. The Ford Interceptor is $43,386.94, and that's just for the vehicle. You have to add on the other two
Yeah,
columns
yeah.
yet. But I would say for the taxpayers' money, the Durango is the way to go. When talking with the sheriff's office, they have their Durangos and Fords. They've had very little issues or recalls with their Durangos, and the amount of time they've had them versus the Fords, they've had a lot, so.
Okay.
And I think you'll come and present an official recommendation, cause I think you wanna order soon.
Yes,
Yep.
yep, at the next council meeting, I'll bring all that, you'll probably see this again, and I will, at the next council meeting in September to get that going, so.
You can email it.
Yeah, maybe we won't reprint it. Can we avoid reprinting, please?
Yeah, don't reprint that.
You did a great job on that synopsis of what you found.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It really nailed it between the eyeballs.
Okay, well, thank you, yeah, it took a lot of time to gather all the information and all the different people that I contacted and followed up on, so, thank you.
Great job.
Yeah. What else we wanna do?
I think we're on fee schedule, right? Does that sound right, Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Yep.
We talked about
Anyone need to
water
recess
sewer.
for a bathroom break, or?
Well, I think we're almost done here, I'm
Okay.
hoping. We talked about water sewer. The other item I wanted to point out is we added a, $30 crime-free class fee, that's for that in-house class.
Yep.
Cause my understanding of the council consensus was come up with a fee for that purpose, cause there's time associated with that and
Yeah.
so forth, okay? The cannabis one is still in there, we don't know exactly how that's gonna play out, we had a meeting today on it. but I just am keeping it in there, cause I wanna make sure we are covered. And then we also added we increased the planning EDA member by 100 to 100, it was 60. And I think that's really the only other change, but I think I mentioned the planning prior somewhere, maybe I didn't, but we would give our, committee members a flat stipend of 60, and we just can't get anybody, I think we need to raise that to 100. We only have, 7 or 8 people affected by it.
Right.
I mean, it's not that, we're not talking huge dollars, and to me, if we can get a few more people involved, it's worth the money, if you guys are okay with that, but. Any other things that you'd like to see on the fee schedule? And again, that will come through when we do the water and sewer, so if you think of something later, let me know. Just kinda wanted you to give a quick glimpse of what we have so far.
Other business, review and approve RFP for development services.
So the RFP is not ready yet, so I think we need to schedule a special meeting for next week. Or it's
Would it
gonna
be ready next week?
I think it will be ready next week. I just got it from the attorney yesterday, so we haven't had a chance to mash together everything. So, take a look at that draft, maybe Tuesday. Does that work for anybody? Maybe we just focus on that? No? What other days? I suggested Friday if the Friday afternoon would work, but the attorney cannot make it, and I think we'd want her here.
So the 27th of August.
Doesn't work for you?
I can't, I mean, I can't make it, but it doesn't mean we can't do it that day.
Okay.
But
I mean, I can, 27th works for me, the 26th, I think, would work too. Unless you wanna do, I just usually would try to shoot for evenings, cause I know of jobs and stuff like that, but, any other suggestions? I need at least 3 days posting, so it's gotta be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday's open house, right?
Wednesday's open house.
Okay. Of course, I could get out of that, so that.
Right. I'm 50-50 on the 26th. The 29th would work. 30th technically would work.
I have a conflict the 29th, I'm scheduled to work for the football game.
Because then after that, we're into the next week with our regularly scheduled.
Yeah, if we can't get it next week, then we're just gonna have to kick it to the regular meeting. Is there an alternate time, or?
I mean, do we need, I mean, if Tuesday works for everyone else but me, I mean, do you need me there to approve the request for
No,
proposal?
you don't, we need 3, but I just know it's a big deal for the entire council, so.
I mean, does Tuesday work for you?
Yep.
You, I mean, I think
Okay.
you do it Tuesday.
Okay, we'll do Tuesday, and then, we can, fill you in.
And if I have any, I mean, I'll take a peek at this, and
Okay.
if there's any comments or concerns or questions I have, I'll relay them to you, and
Okay.
you guys can go from there with it.
Yeah, and let us know too, if you take a look at it today, tonight or tomorrow, and you see something, hey, what about this, what about that, or hey, we really wanted this, shoot me an email, or
Yeah.
give me a call. Cause, there was a lot of stuff going on that, night, and we were trying to, decipher everything, but the good news is I think we have some interest, because, I've talked to a few already that know this is coming out, so.
Good.
Hope for the best. So 5:30 on Tuesday, August 27th. I will not need you there, okay?
I'll be up.
And then hopefully just focus on that, and we'll be in and out hopefully in an hour. Okay, and then the last thing I have is just, we need to approve the insurance renewal, the tort limit. Where did it go now?
You'll have to,
You need a
Oh,
motion
you'll-
to not.
you have to explain what that means.
Okay, so every year we renew insurance, you have the option to not limit your, liability limits. We strongly recommend you do. So you wanna say I motion to not waive the tort limits. If you choose to waive them, somebody can sue us for $10 million and get paid out on that. But the state limits how much they can get paid by us. That's what we want. So every year we have to authorize it as a city council, and it always comes through this time of year, and it always comes through right at the last minute. So I just need a motion to not waive the monetary limits on municipal liability tort limits.
I move we do not, do not waive.
A second.
Motion's been made and second. Any other discussion? If hearing none, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
So we sign this?
No, I sign it when I renew.
None of us need to sign this?
Nope. That's just the form that the insurance agent gives me. I just wanna know what but yeah, if you wanna look it up, it's kind of a no-brainer, but there are a couple cities that do not, or they do waive it. I don't know why, but.
Any other business to come before this meeting? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Meeting adjourned.
It was on your pile, so
Yeah.
probably in your paperwork. This is just, it shows the acreage if you're wondering.
Okay.
It'll be in the RFP, but I just wanted to see it.
September, you guys have more time to talk about it. Yeah, no, that